Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. So I'm reading today for Scorpio energy and I'm reading a little bit predictively for July. So some of the messages may be a bit like, what's that talking about at the moment if you're watching this in kind of like June. But just kind of like bear things in mind. There are a few things to kind of like watch out for. You have got a few warnings. It's just like a heads up of like common sense things, so don't overly worry about it. There is still a bit of the darkness lingering that kind of came through in Libra's reading quite strongly. And yeah, you do have a little bit of a darker energy around this reading, so you may be feeling a little bit, almost a little bit haunted at this time. Maybe you're having nightmares, or you have this feeling of you've got this strong feeling of like stuff around you, like feeling like there's something in the energy that could be a little bit dark. So do your protection spells if that's something that you're interested in doing. Get a dream catcher, anything that you feel gives you a little bit more peace of mind and a little bit more protection, which is an interesting thing we're going to talk about actually. I feel like the message could be something just coming out of Libra's reading, because obviously some people are kind of on the cusp, kind of bridging the gap between Libra and Scorpio. So I think there is a bit of crossover. There could be something about really embracing your shadow in July. So it's interesting because I think Venus is currently retrograding in Leo, and I know the end of July is like Leo season. So I don't know if there's something about maybe being a little bit. I don't know. I'm sorry. Your reading is actually really tricky to read, and this is kind of why I've switched things up and gone to this system of reading rather than pulling cards on camera, because I've already done your reading once and it came out. It was really hard to read, so I had to pause a lot. I didn't feel like the reading flowed. I was quite confused as a reader, and I felt like there was a few scary messages coming through that, because I was reading it in the moment, I wasn't. It was scaring me a little bit, and I felt like I needed to maybe take a breath. Maybe this is why you're getting this breath energy coming through. Like, take a breath, think about what I've been told, and think about how to explain it to you in a way where I'm being responsible as a reader, because I do want to have to be careful when, as a reader, that I'm giving you the messages and any warnings that come through, because I mean, it could really help somebody out, right, if they get some kind of like heads up about something, but also to make sure that I'm not scaring anyone or making anyone paranoid. So I have to try and, it can be difficult sometimes as a reader to kind of get that right. So I do really want to say, excuse me a second actually. Okay, so yeah, I do want to say, and I did say this at the beginning of your last reading, especially coming out of Libra's reading, that I do often I channel things that are in the collective consciousness. So sometimes I can channel things that are, perhaps it's a movie that's going to come out that everybody's excited about and everybody's talking about, or, a book or a TV show or something that's happening in the news. So something that's coming through in your reading, it's come through, oh, I just saw 333 on the timestamp. So if you're somebody who looks at numbers, just kind of point that one out. So yeah, so you have this, okay, that's really weird. My cat was just kind of like moving around and it just felt like the message of your reading. Let me just let the cat out, hold on. So that's almost exactly kind of what I'm talking about here. So one of the messages that I had for you is this feeling of sensing things in your environment. So almost like closing your eyes and going into meditation and just feeling things energetically. So let me show you some of the cards that were kind of coming out in your last reading. So it's almost like this, right? So it's almost this sense of stillness. So you kept on getting these two cards next to each other, like this, not the exact same two cards, but the same message in two cards. So it was almost like rest, like void, right? There's nothing there, but there is something there, right? So it was like this, right? So it was like when you open your eyes, there's nothing there, but when you close your eyes, you can feel something energetically around you. And I was really noticing the dream catcher my mum gave me. So yeah, it just has this feeling of like something being around you energetically, or something being in the atmosphere that's not visible. Interesting, you've got air and life breath. This card came out twice for you. This card also came out twice for you. And then, yeah, you're getting a lot of kind of imagery like this as well, which is kind of coming up kind of towards the end of your reading, so I'm just going to save those to talk about for later. But you kept on getting that sense of it is strange, and it's kind of like you can see it depicted in this card as well, almost like things in your environment. There was better cards that showed it, which I should have pulled out in advance thinking about it now. But I even had this dream last night. I kind of, well, it wasn't a dream. I woke up and it was like there was these two big black, it was like black voids or black holes inside my room on either side of the bed. It just felt like, and I couldn't really see anything, and it was more of a sense that there was a presence, but the presence was like a black hole, like a void. So it did kind of it did kind of startle me a little bit. I'm just trying to find one of the cards to kind of like talk about kind of what I mean. But I feel like it's something about your energy for July. It's like, again, it's kind of like almost closing your eyes and like sensing spirits. Maybe you've got the ability to sense spirits around you. But yeah, it has this feeling of like you can't see it, right? It's like even this planet is almost hidden, but that's exactly what it was like. Kind of, I woke up and it was like there was a void in the room. And yeah, I hope I'm explaining kind of what that would be like. Maybe some of you are going, yes, 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 I'm exactly experiencing that. And of course our mind can play tricks on us, so I do need to acknowledge that you know, in that halfway stage between being awake and being asleep, you know, our bodies can play tricks on us, our minds can play tricks on us, because sometimes we're still dreaming, you know. So I do want to kind of say, even though maybe some of you are experiencing these feelings, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily a true presence or a true thing. If that is particularly comforting to you, then absolutely take it that way. But it does have the feeling of being visited. So the other thing I wanted to say was that you're getting a lot of references to something that's going on in the news at the moment with the Titanic and this submersible that's gone missing. So it's really funny how this came through. I was cleaning up Libra's cards, and the cards, the medallion and the ocean flashed at me, and I didn't really pay too much attention to it, but of course Titanic popped into my head because it's like that Britney Spears song, right? It's like, I thought the lady dropped it into the ocean at the end. Well, baby, I went down and got it. Oh, you shouldn't have. You know, it's like the old lady dropping the necklace into the ocean is like a famous motif from Titanic. So the medallion in the ocean gave me Titanic, and I thought, oh, Titanic reference, I wonder what that is. And then I saw it in the news, you know, that this submersible, which people are paying like $250,000 to go down in this submersible per seat, not even like per trip, but per seat. It's like, who has that kind of money to go and do that, unless they're, you know, like scientists and it's like a funded thing? I don't know. But yeah, so I saw it in the news, and then it was in your reading again. So you had, and it came through in a funny way, and it took me a minute to notice it, because from my own deck you had the whale, and the whale was almost like the submersible, right? This thing that can travel deep underwater. And so yeah, I was like, that's the submersible, that's the scuba thing. The whale, the black hole, again with this idea of like void spaces, and then the compass in reverse. And I thought, I wonder if my cards are telling me about this submersible, because obviously it's gone missing, right? So I thought maybe it's kind of like the black hole could be like a Bermuda Triangle type situation where, you know, it's something down there. And I'm not saying it's like anything supernatural, but it could be something to do with magnets, or flow of the water, or some kind of electrical pulse. I thought maybe there's something down there that made the compass go a bit skew-whiff, and they've gone a bit off course. And then the last card was mountain, and I thought, I wonder if they're going to show up like, and the scuba ship was found off the coast of Mount something or other. So yeah, I don't know, the mountain's been coming up quite a lot. It actually came out a couple of times. It came out in Libra's reading, and it came out a couple of times for you. So this idea of like climbing the mountain, getting the bigger picture, having a higher perspective, also coming through. So it's kind of here as well. I'll talk about it when we get to that point in the reading. So let me go through some of the intuitive messages that, again, some of them felt a bit dark. So sort of prepare yourselves for that, and just remember that it could be something in the news. It could be some kind of topic of discussion, you know, something on social media that people are talking about that you particularly engage with. It could be all sorts of things. So you were getting divine feminine and cosmic womb. So the first thing that I kind of felt when I went into meditation for you was this feeling of you know, sometimes on a very hot day, you fill the sink with freezing cold water and ice cubes, and you put your face in it. And then the funny thing is, I had this like vision or this feeling of doing this, and then it was actually in a TV show I was watching. So I'm going to talk about the TV show as well, because again, I do channel TV shows and films and things, but it could. I still want to mention it because it still could be something that you're experiencing in July, right? It could be a topic that's coming up for you. So I don't want to kind of like dismiss it. So, but yeah, in meditation, I had this feeling of like putting my face in a sink of cold water. And it had this feeling of like putting my face into a different atmosphere. But the thing was, it wasn't a sink of cold water. It was kind of like a portal or a mirror, but with a vertical pane of water. And so I pushed my face into this vertical pane of water, and this hand was coming out of whatever that space was behind into my realm, right? So this idea of like crossing the veil, crossing into a different realm. And so when I pushed my face through, I could kind of see almost like a galaxy or a void energy behind what, and this was what the water was made of. But this was also pushing back to me. So I did mention, funnily enough, and this is another thing that made me think, oh, I wonder if I've been channeling this Titanic thing all along, was that I mentioned in one of the readings this brilliant film called The Abyss, which again is one of those films that I just enjoy every time I watch it, where there's these kind of like alien or unknown creatures that live underneath the ocean, and they are made of water, and so they do have this thing of like you know, they can come out like a almost like a water snake, not a water snake but a snake made of water into a different environment. So it's kind of like as I was pushing into their environment, they were pushing into my environment, which did make me think of like, obviously you had the word black holes, and the idea of like pushing into a different realm and maybe being visited by something. Again, I don't know if this is a true thing that you feel like you're personally experiencing or a topic that you're discussing in July, but it's coming up. And yeah, it felt very cosmic womb. It felt very, you had the cards Divine Feminine and Cosmic Womb as I was kind of like cleaning up Libra's reading. So this idea of like the universe being one great big cosmic womb and almost like the planets being eggs. Because then I felt like I was a dragon inside the center, a huge dragon inside the center of the earth, and I was cracking out of the earth as though I was cracking out of an egg. And then I had this vision of like all the planets being eggs. So the idea of the universe being like a great big cosmic womb kind of came through. Again, things come through and they seem really random, and I think, what am I talking about? And then it plays out and I see it in real life and I'm like, oh, that's that thing I was channeling. So again, I'm just going to say what I'm getting. And then after this feeling of kind of like being able to push into a different realm and this cosmic womb divine feminine energy, the song Higher Power by Coldplay started playing, which is like, you've got a higher power. So Scorpio, you are the high priestess in the tarot. You are of all the different signs, Scorpio tends to be the one that has the greatest psychic ability, the greatest ability to engage with supernatural and things that are beyond the veil, right? This is why the high priestess sits in front of the veil, because she's able to, like Persephone, travel between two different realms. You also had the song Lucifer's Girlfriend and Revenge Wife. Now, I don't know if this is your energy, but it did come through in the cards as well, because you had things like marriage, a card that literally said marriage, and you also had, I'm just looking for the card, this card, right, which literally says vengeance. So it's the things that I was talking about that I'd got through predictively actually came through in your reading, and it did come through as very, very dark and very low vibrational, bad karma, all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't recommend, do not recommend, but it almost felt like if one thing that I kind of felt was there was this thing about the initiation in Libra's reading, and Libra almost saying that's a step too far. That is, so it's kind of like if you and Libra, for example, were joining some sort of group, and maybe it's some kind of like group of witches or group of spellcasters or something like this. And Libra, and part of the initiation was to do something that was quite mean or grotesque, perhaps. Libra is saying, no, I don't agree with this. I don't want to join any kind of group that expects people to do this, where you had the initiation in the upright. So I do wonder if perhaps you were prepared to do something that Libra wasn't, because Libra also had this thing about coming second place, like the runner-up beauty queen kind of thing. So I just be very careful about your values, Scorpio. It's going to be a different message for every different individual, because nobody's pure 100% Scorpio energy. If you look at your birth chart, you're going to have a lot of different planetary placements. You know, look at where your Mars is, look at where your Venus is. Your Mars will talk about how you take action. Scorpio Mars is particularly vengeful as a placement, so watch out for that. Also watch out for if anyone has Scorpio Lilith. Again, Lilith is a very dark energy, and Scorpio Lilith is a very, very dark placement. So yeah, just also because it came through Lucifer's girlfriend by revenge wife, be careful if anyone's got an ex with strong Scorpio placements, particularly Scorpio Mars or Scorpio Venus or Scorpio Lilith, because I'm saying Scorpio Venus because, one, because Venus is here, and because someone with a Scorpio Venus placement will be particularly vengeful if they are betrayed in relationships. So it is something to be wary of if you've got a very vindictive ex, perhaps. So yeah, Lucifer's girlfriend, revenge wife, especially if they kind of dabble in kind of like darker things. In that song it says, I'm an angel gone wrong. I think she is a Libra, actually, the girl who sings Revenge Wife. She's a Libra, and she does kind of like dabble in darker themes as an art, you know, as an art style. So this could definitely be somebody who perhaps enjoys, because you're getting a lot of stuff about healthy use of the shadow, or at least Libra did in their reading. It could be somebody who does a lot of like film noir, or you know, those kind of Italian movies that are kind of very, like, they always have the damsel in distress in them, you know, a little bit like a horror kind of thing, hammer horror type thing. So it could be engaging with your shadow through art, right? So it doesn't come out in, there's a difference between somebody who creates art that evokes certain feelings to have a human experience, and somebody who's doing these things in real life. So I do need to kind of like point that out. Yeah, but just be careful. So you had this thing about, you had this card that said gift on it several times, and the Ace of Pentacles. And because you had this dark energy of like revenge kind of thing, it did come with a message of beware of Greeks bearing gifts, and it came through specifically with a story of Medea. So if you want to go and watch go and look up the story of Medea. It's a play. I wonder if it's by, hang on, let me just double check. Is it Aristophanes? I don't think it's Aristophanes. I always pronounce everything wrong. Euripides. It's Medea by Euripides. So again, this idea of like a gift that is sabotaged. So I want to say in July, be particularly careful about accepting drinks off people, because you also had a song by Kesha that was like drink the something. So somebody, it could be like spiked drinks, spiked food. You have this thing about laxatives coming through. Be careful of your tummy. Just be really careful about what you're eating, what you're drinking, especially if it's been tampered with. Don't eat or drink anything that's been tampered with, especially if you don't trust the person giving it you. You know, only have things if it's sealed when you get it, all that kind of thing. And just be careful as well if anyone's giving you clothes. It could be like somebody gives you clothes but it's got itching powder on or something like that. So just be really careful, be really wary. And even if it's not particularly, I mean, it is coming through as vindictive, but just generally speaking, just be extra careful in July about accepting gifts, because even well-meaning people can sometimes accidentally have something in that food. You know, it's like, where did they get it from? Has anyone else tampered with it? All that kind of stuff. So again, I don't want to make anyone super paranoid, and this is why I'm redoing the reading, because when it first started to come through, it came through very dark, because you also have this thing about I had this feeling of being, excuse me a second. Okay, so back to the intuitive messages. My son had a splinter in his toe, so I had to sit there digging it out. Um, yeah, it kind of threw me a little bit of where we were up to. So yeah, I've been watching the TV show You, and you you had some energy coming through that felt quite similar. So I was in the kitchen and I was making pizza dough because it's so warm. I'm wearing this kind of like pink spotty nightie, like a little silk nightie, and I had like my hair was kind of up because it was hot. I was getting it off my neck, but it kind of gave me this feeling of being a bit like a 50s housewife, sort of like trying to please her man, baking cakes and all this kind of thing. So again, this kind of cake baking, just be careful, you know, especially if this is like a husband and wife type situation, and the wife is on the surface like being very pleasing, very like, I'm the perfect wife, but it's a bit Stepford Wives, I think. But then, you know, if they know that their partner's been cheating, like, just be careful about what's in that dinner, that kind of thing, you know, like so it's got this feeling of like on the surface being like the perfect wife, the perfect family, you know, keeping up with the neighbours, that kind of thing. But actually there's something a bit dark going on within it. So again, the TV show You, if you look at season 3, they're a married couple, but they're both kind of maybe not the best people, and she does make cakes in that. So again, I might just be channeling that TV show, but it was coming through for you along with the song Mrs. Robinson. So it's like, we just want to ask you a few questions, right? Here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. So it's like that idea of Mrs. Robinson as well. It's like the perfect wife, you know, like suburban neighborhood, like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, officer, that kind of thing. Because it says, we'd like to know a little bit about you for our files, right? We'd like to help you help yourself. So again, it's this feeling of, yeah, on the surface being like the perfect wife, the perfect family, but something a bit dark underlying that. Again, do just kind of look at everybody's full birth charts to see what you're dealing with. There's no bad placements, but certain placements are going to kind of show up in different ways, and some of those are going to have slightly darker or scarier tendencies. It's all about how you use it, right? So look at people's Lilith placements, because Lilith is kind of where a lot of kind of the darkness and the guilt and the kinks come from. Yeah, and just kind of like look for those placements and see what you're getting into with the relationships. What else do we have? Something about there could be a man with long brown hair and brown eyes, or foolish eyes. It's coming through with that Black Bathing Suit song by Lana Del Rey. Sorry, no, it's not. It's coming through with Dustland Fairy Tale by The Killers. Long brown hair, foolish eyes. He looks just like you'd want him to, some kind of sick from American Prince. And so I was getting this kind of like 70s, like 60s, 70s vibe. So there could be something that happened historically, that you're interested in. Maybe this is something that happened in your family, something that happened historically, but it's kind of making think of like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and that kind of thing, just because of the topic that's coming through. Again, it could be just someone's a film student and or a you know, researching the history of Hollywood, or the history of, I don't know, certain things beginning with C. But just because of Libra's reading and this reading, just be extra careful about what you're getting involved with, because there's something shady in the energy. Yeah, you got Something in the Way You Move by the Beatles, which is the third time I've actually channeled this song. But the way George Harrison looks in that that video, right, long brown hair. You've also got Sounds of Silence. So you really have this thing about almost like not speaking something. I feel like someone else had this. I feel like it was Virgo. It's like, so the whale and the black hole. The whale to me symbolizes, which are the cards that came out originally. The whale symbolizes deep secrets, like stuff that's really buried in your subconscious, like really kind of like stuff that you've kind of like pushed away and you refuse to look at. But the whale's able to kind of dive to those deepest parts of the ocean and kind of unearth those more more hidden aspects of the psyche. So it's a really good thing. The whale is a really good process because it does tell me that somebody's processing, right? It does tell me that there's things coming up to the surface, big secrets coming up to the surface for air, right? To get some life breath, because this is what whales do. But the black hole following it gave me this feeling of like swallowing a big secret, right? Like maybe like, you know, like it could be sort of like a Moby Dick, Pinocchio type situation where it's like the whale swallows someone. But yeah, it had this feeling of kind of like something trying to come up, from the back of your psyche, or it could be like a repressed memory, something from a past life, a fear that you don't want to acknowledge or look at. But it's like it's trying to come up, and I've got this feeling of you kind of like swallowing it or engulfing it back down, which isn't very healthy. So just be wary of that as well. Okay, I think that's your notes. So going to the cards that have come out this time, it's an interesting story. And again, how this is going to play out for you on a personal level, I don't know. It feels very collective, actually. It feels very like a sci-fi movie or some sort of story. So again, just take it with a pinch of salt. My main message for you, Scorpio, is don't get involved with anything shady. You know, don't do anything that's going to generate bad karma for yourself. Take the high road kind of thing. And, you know, vengeance is, it's not a healthy way of processing your emotions. It generates bad karma for the self. What else? Just be really careful as well of like vengeful exes at this time, especially if they are putting on like a very, you know, if they're acting a bit suspicious, if they're acting like everything's fine, like big smile, nicey, and they're giving you a cake, it's like, what's in the cake? It has that kind of feeling. Okay, so you've got the Venus, the Siren, the Diamond in the underlying this time. Again, very Libran, very Venusian energy. Do check out people's Venus placements. Venus and Siren, I mean, it really is like Aphrodite coming out of the ocean. Right, what's her name? Fyrene. Fyrene is the courtesan that the famous sculpture of Aphrodite is based on. So you do have someone who could have strong Libra placements. To be fair, Scorpio Venus is very seductive. It's that kind of mysterious, oozing sensuality of Scorpio Venus placements that's very magnetic, right? But it feels a bit like this is going to be something dark to get involved with, is the way Scorpio Venus placements feel. But with the diamond as well, the diamond is representative to me of the soul. So it's kind of making me think of mermaids as well, right? But yeah, the diamond is kind of like the purity of the soul, right? The little piece of God that's in each of us, and the way it turns into our persona is through the different facets of our experiences, of our personality, of our birth chart, and that turns us into whatever vibrant pattern of colors that we are, right? So it's kind of like the pure white light energy at the center of the diamond. To me, represents kind of like universal or God energy. Doesn't matter if that doesn't make sense to you, like just bear with me, I'll get into the reading. There could be something about literal diamonds as well for you in July. But yeah, like Venus, Siren, Diamond, there's this feeling of something being absolutely compelling, absolutely magnetic. And this could be your energy as well. But again, warning signs, right, with the siren. There is a siren going off. There's an alarm going off somewhere outside. So your reading starts with the hollow bone in reverse. And the hollow bone says teachability. And there's something about vibrations, right? Like the vibration of the planet, if you will, because you've also got this Fool card. So this idea of like playing a note, right, and it creating sound waves. You can also see this on the Magician card here, is like surrounded by these sound waves. So I want to say there's something about the earth emitting because it's like this almost. So it's like the earth is emitting a certain vibration, a certain sound that's gaining the attention of something in the upper atmosphere. So, you know, I'm not saying it's the aliens, but it's the aliens. I don't know how you want to read this, whether you feel like we're alone in the universe, whether you feel like our planet is particularly unique, or if you think that there is a strong possibility of life on other planets. As I say, I did have this feeling of kind of, especially when I woke up in the middle of the night, this feeling of like presence on either side of the bed, and it feeling like a big black void in the room, right? So it's almost like these I don't know, the presence of these others, right? These presence of these others that are coming from a different realm, if you like. So again, if we ground that in kind of like what feels more familiar, you could just be talking about meeting people in your dreams, perhaps, or just this general feeling of being watched or something like this. It could be, but I'm going to read it as the cards are saying it, which is going to be a bit out there, but just take it as it resonates and leave it if it doesn't. So it's almost like somebody down on earth is like admitting some kind of signal, right? Or the earth is emitting a certain vibration, which is attracting the attention of these others that are coming through almost like guardians of the planet, because you have this twice. That alarm going off again. You have the Earth Keeper here, and then in the underlying, unbelievably, you have Keepers of the Earth. So very unusual. This very rarely comes out in readings, either of these cards, and for them both to come out in the same reading, it is quite a clear message. Keepers of the Earth, you are not alone. Ancient ancestors stand beside you. Again, the idea of like this ancient thing that's hidden at the back of our subconscious, right? This ancient ancestral wisdom, or this ancient ancestral knowledge. So some of you may feel like you're starborn. You may feel like your ancestry is from a different planet, perhaps, because this is Pleiades, double mission, channeling and uplifting humanity. Some people who identify as starseeds do believe they come from the Pleiades system. You think of that Red Hot Chili Peppers song, right? Can't stop the spirits when they need you. This life is more than just a read through. They mention the Pleiades in that song. So yeah, it has this feeling of like the earth keepers, right? The keepers of the earth sending out a signal. It's almost like we need to talk, or we need help, like it but the message of the earth seems to be, we're unteachable, right? Because it's teachability in reverse. Like we haven't learned our lessons. Come and help us. We haven't learned our lessons. So this could be environmental. I did see the world card as I was kind of like doing the pre-shuffle. So it could be I'm really worried about the planet. I'm really worried about the ecosystem. I'm really worried about our natural resources. And if everybody's panicking about this, right? If everybody's panicking about the polar ice caps and stuff like this, then that is going to create a resonance in the collective consciousness. This is something that's kind of scientifically proven. I can't remember the name of it, but there is a scale that measures the vibration of the planet, and when good things are happening, it goes up, and when people are really sad and there's scary stuff happening, it goes down. It's so the earth does emit a resonance, and this idea of the collective consciousness, if we're all panicking, if we're all distressed, if we're all screaming, help our planet, we've not learned our lessons, we you know, it's like these people are coming to respond, right? It's like they've heard the signal and they're responding, is the way it's coming through. And I want to say it's almost like they're either, I'm just trying to work out who's who, because there's a few different characters in this reading. So it's kind of like I don't know if this is like a child on the ship kind of thing, because you've also got this energy here. It's like I feel like this is all the same character. It's almost like her growing up, right? So it's kind of like child, kind of preteen, teenager years, and then like adult years. It feels like it's the same energy, the same person. I think because of her hair, like it's a similar style in those two readings, and then like a similar color there, and then you have this kind of like really free flowing hair here. So there's this kind of like progression feeling, or age, like somebody aging up. But here it feels like somebody, when they're a child, it's almost like, just because the angle, like the angle that they're at, right? I feel like it's one of these starseeds, star children, like it's like they're answering the call, perhaps. So perhaps this is something that happened a long time ago. You know, you answered the call, your consciousness came down from space to be birthed into a human being in order to teach the planet, right? In order to raise the vibration of the planet, right? Channeling and uplifting humanity. So it could be that this is what your purpose is here on Earth. You came down to help. Then there's this feeling of, it's almost like Superman going home. So the things at the top of the reading feel like it's talking about things that are up, like things that are in space, things that are kind of even maybe the super ego or something like that. The bottom feels like what's happening on Earth, what's happening on the planet. So these cards to me, with the Hangman in reverse and the Magician, it's looking to me like whoever this character is, right, it's like they're getting the vibrations, they're feeling the sensitivity, they're picking up on the messages as maybe as the ship comes close to the planet, or as these ancestors draw closer. It's like this person's feeling it in the atmosphere. So I am saying that this is you, Scorpio, because I was channeling Scorpio's energy when I felt like there was stuff around me, right? I felt like there was stuff there was presences in my environment, which happens quite often to me. I do pick up on, I do feel like I have the ability to pick up on perhaps ghosts or things that can't be seen in the environment. I've done it where I've had certain spots in a park that I go to where I'm like, I'm sure there's something here. I'm sure there's something here. I can feel it. And I've used one of those ghost apps, and there'll be like nothing in the area until I get to where I can feel the presence, and there'll be something on the screen. You know, it's like the little connect things. And I'm like, I knew there was something here. I felt it. You know, like a certain door that I was pulled to. And then this thing was kind of like, I was getting the messages from near the door. So it could be a presence. It could be some kind of magnetic pulse that maybe some people are more sensitive to than others. I feel like everybody can do this. I feel like everybody has... You know, everybody has that feeling of like being watched, or the hair's going up on the back of the neck. I feel like everybody has this sensitivity, but how much time a person has to, or inclination a person has to tune into it is going to be different for everybody. So I do feel like you being High Priestess energy in the tarot, and don't worry about gender, right? It's coming through as Magician energy today. I feel like you have... you're very attuned sensitively, or your sensitivity is very attuned to pick up these presences in your environment. It's like they've come to visit, but they're shadow people, right? They're unseen. So I want to say there's this feeling of you needing to go. It's kind of like beam me up, Scotty, right? It's like those on the ship, those who are in space, send a vibration back to us. It could talk about, I mean, this sounds really like way out there, but think about it, right? Think about how sound travels through space. We're a really noisy planet. We've got TVs on all the time. We're literally beaming stuff, you know, movies and music through satellites all around the planet. And some of those radio waves are going to go out into space, right? So we're a noisy planet. It's going to attract attention, but also things bounce, right? Sound bounces, and this is how we know how far planets are away from Earth, right? Because how fast the light or the sound will bounce back to us. So the idea of like us sending out a vibration, us sending out a signal, or just being noisy, and you know, it something responding, whether it's just something bouncing back at us, or it feels in your reading like these Pleiadian ancestors are going, we're answering the call, we're coming to see you. So then it feels like this is kind of like beam me up, Scotty, right? You get the message, and it's kind of like going up, because this is like he's falling down, but this is like he's going up, kind of. So yeah, it's like there is something though about a fixed perspective, right? So the hangman in the upright talks about a change of perspective, being able to see something from a different angle, or multiple different angles, right? It's like being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. But with teachability and the hangman being in reverse, it feels like somebody who has perhaps a very, very stubborn perspective, right? you know, they're not teachable, they're not seeing, it's like they're not seeing what they're supposed to be seeing. So then we have this meeting, and this is looking like the meeting. So the messenger of water, I was talking in, I think I did a reading that was called Aliens in Vegas, and I was talking about how was it the Aliens in Vegas reading? There was a reading that was talking about if something is coming to visit us. It could have been Cancer's reading. Check out Cancer's reading. If something is coming to visit us, it's coming with good intentions. It's coming with the intention to teach us, to help us to learn, to educate us, to make us better, right? It was coming with love. And so with the messenger of water, again, we have this sense of they're coming with love. They're coming because they care about the planet, right? They're coming because they care about the starseeds that are on this planet, if starseeds is something that you're interested in. I mean, maybe you're poo-pooing this entire reading. Maybe you're sat there going, this is all crazy talk. What is this woman saying? This is not for me. In which case, that's absolutely fine. Some of you are like, yeah, this does not feel like it's my life at all, but it's topics that I'm interested in. It's the kind of TV shows that I watch, in which case that's what it is for you. I can only tell you what's coming in through the cards, right, and through the energy. So again, I don't expect anyone to believe this 100%. I've had some really crazy readings, and it's turned out to be, you know, a movie that I've watched, so whatever. But yeah, anyway, it's like this meeting, right? This meeting between, I want to say, you as the magician, like going up, like beamed up to have a conversation with these beings. Perhaps you're the larger presence, just because the imagery of this card, right? It's like your presence is much larger than their presence, and there's multiple ones of them. So it could be that, could be something like you've gone to talk to this one, right? You've gone to talk to perhaps somebody in your star family who's like a younger soul than you. It's like you've gone to have this meeting with them, kind of like this, right? Because they're smaller, visually they're smaller. But then very quickly other people join. So it's perhaps meant to be some kind of one-on-one meeting between you and this, what's coming through as a child. But then very soon it's kind of like drawing attention, and kind of like more of these energies are coming around, and kind of like also listening to what you have to say. Now, while there's a message of love, there's some deception involved here. There's some it has the feeling of something like the message that you're giving is that the earth hasn't learned its lessons, that we're unteachable. But it could be that you're showing up, appearing to be very loving while tricking them, or vice versa. There's some kind of trick involved, right? The magician always has a trick up his sleeve, which again is making me think of that Aliens in Vegas reading. And I want to say it is in order to protect the earth, because look at this, just look at the energy of this bottom row, right? It's coming through as masculine, this masculine energy, and it seems to be here to, if this is you, it's like your purpose here is to educate the planet, to protect the planet, to be an earth keeper, to be a if you identify as masculine, if this is you, right, it's like you are almost like the gatekeeper of earth, you know, like protecting the children. Something about children, the earth keeper, the masculine. So it's to be a good example of what it is to be in masculine energy on earth, you know, to be high vibrational, to protect, to serve. Feels quite Virgoan. To protect, to serve, to educate, to be that kind of steadfast provider who educates, but in a very loving kind of like fatherly way to the planet as this earth keeper, right? It's like you are a protector of the planet. But something around this conversation and this deception with the Seven of Air, the Seven of Swords can mean being sneaky, but the person's taking swords off the battlefield so that they can't be used to injure anyone another day. So it's the sneakiness can sometimes have a good purpose. And then, but there's something to do with like protection being in reverse, right? And it's something to do with the Earth Keeper, right? Because of the colours and because of the wings, I'm seeing this as the same energy. It could be something about leaving somebody unprotected in this moment. So it's like if this Earth Keeper energy has to go back up to join the others, perhaps for some sort of meeting, it's leaving the Earth vulnerable. And so perhaps this is where some of that stubborn, unteachable energy comes in, because it's like, I must protect this. But the protection's been removed. So it could also be the advice, right? The advice from, it could be that these kind of alien creatures then, or these ancestors are saying, right, well, we're removing the protection then. We're removing the protection from this child, or we're no longer protecting this child. We're or our advice to you as this father figure is to not be overly protective of something, because it does feel like father and daughter almost, right? So then when this, so I want to say this person returns to the earth, right? They return to the earth. I don't know, because it says lunar god, earth keeper, lunar god. So I could be wrong. It could be that this is the, I don't know, because it has this up and down, right? So it's because he still feels like he's protecting, right? He still feels protected, but then these children are kind of like off in the distance. I'm not sure what's happening fully, but there is this feeling of like, okay, let me say this first. So again, this conversation that, people are gathering around, it's a conversation of love, right? It is a message of love, but there is some deception, whether it's like self-deception, but it feels like this person is not happy, right? So it feels like it starts off as like a one-on-one conversation with you and this child, right? You and this child, and it's messages of love, and it's high vibrational, but then it's like these others get involved and they all have what they want to say, right? And then it's like this person doesn't like the outcome. So it could be, I mean, I don't know why it's coming through as aliens, but it almost feels to me like maybe some kind of child protection meeting, right? It's like the parent goes to speak to the child, the family gets involved, the healthcare system, whatever gets involved, and then there's too many voices, and then the child feels unhappy with the outcome. She looks really kind of dissatisfied, right? And I want to say it's because some kind of decision is being made to remove some kind of protection. So I want to say at first it feels like somebody's not happy with this, right? It doesn't feel right in the instance, because it started off with a message of love and then it turns into something quite fiery, right? It goes from the messenger of water to the messenger of fire. So the messenger of the heart into the messenger of action and creativity and spontaneity and wildness and fun and sometimes anger and things like this with the messenger of fire or the messenger of light. But there's something to do with like when this protection is removed from this messenger of fire, it actually gives them space to breathe, is the way it's coming through, because it's almost like this, she's like pulling off this covering, right? She's pulling off this cocoon, and it's like it's freeing her. There's this I can stretch now, I can breathe now energy. So let me show you this imagery. So all these cards kept on showing in your previous reading. You've got this one again, but I pulled these ones out to show you kind of the imagery of like this coming out of the cocoon and having space and having freedom and having it says like wildness and ignition with fire, right, and action. So there's all this one's energy, all this fire energy that's igniting inside this one when the protection is removed, right? And again, it could be like an overprotective father or something like that. And then what happens is there's this tower moment, and it could be a tower moment, but it could also be talking about some kind of institution, because it kind of makes me think of the tower in the Lenormand deck, which carries a meaning more of a structure, some kind of institution, like a school or a government building, right? So, but the tower moment is like it's a surprise, or it's a shock, or it's something that ruffles everybody's feathers. So again, it has this feeling of the protection's removed and this child is given more freedom, which could be quite shocking to perhaps the home, the family. But it also has this feeling of release and freedom, because there's something about, I mean, I did have this thing about like meeting at the top of the mountain, right? Meeting at the pinnacle. And I remember Santara had this reading. If you want to go look at Santara's, I think it was her Libra reading, she had this thing about the tower moment's coming up, right? The top of the mountain is coming up, but it won't affect you because you'll fly over it. Was the message in her reading. And it's very similar. So the placements of these cards, right? It's like because of this ignition energy, right? Because of the fire, because of the, it could be anger, it could be enthusiasm, it could be spontaneity, it could be, it feels really fun and wild, right? It feels very Sagittarian, this card being Sagittarius to me. So it's like whatever this fire is, it takes somebody out of perhaps a very emotional place. Yes, the protection is removed, but it feels like being able to breathe for the first time, because perhaps this protection was overly confining, right? Maybe somebody was overprotected. So then it has this feeling of kind of like just flying right over, like it's kind of like when ships might fly, right? It feels impossible, but it's like flying right over the troubles. If the tower is like troubles, right? If the tower is things falling apart, things not working, a shock. I want to say that this child, because they've been removed from the Earth Keeper, right? Who is not bad, right? They're not bad. They are coming with love, right? But because they've been removed from the Earth Keeper, their fire, their heat is fueling this ship, right, and allowing them to successfully, because the Six of Fire is like success, it's also recognition, being cheered on, yeah, just feeling really successful and victorious, and people are cheering you on. So it's almost like she's being cheered on. This child is, if she's a child, she's being encouraged to fly, she's being encouraged to follow her dreams, she's being encouraged to experience her freedom. It's actually very, very positive. While I want to say this one remains grounded, right? This one remains at home, keeping with the Earth Keeper. It's got something like if you have a child who particular Sagittarius, right, and they grow up to be they want to be wild, they want to explore, they want to follow the dreams, right? Follow the passions. I've got a Sagittarius Mars placement, and it's the feeling of when you're into something, you're really into it, and you really want to, you're so excited, and you have to kind of like flow that excitement, because if you don't do that, you easily get distracted or get engaged with something else, and then you don't do that original thing. So it's almost like follow you when you feel that flame, when you feel that spark of excitement, just go, just do it. Don't even think twice about it. Just follow that fire is kind of like what's happening with this, what feels like maybe like a teenager, where this feels more like a father figure who is keeping the home safe. So it's kind of like what a good parent should do, right? They provide the safety net, they provide the it's making me think of the stone or the rock from the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck. It's like you provide the place that they can come back to, right? So they go out and explore, but you're always the safe pair of hands. It's kind of like that Fix You song by Coldplay, right? When you try your best but you don't succeed, I will fix you. It's like they can always come home to you. You are always going to be, if this is you, and again, flip it and reverse it, you will always be that, you will always feel like home to them. You will always be that that rock they can depend on. You'll always be the broad shoulders that will catch them when they fall. You will always be the wind beneath their wings, perhaps, or their backbone, or their landing place. It's like kind of like a teenager who goes off to university, right? And they're going out and they're being wild and they're having fun, and something goes wrong and they spiral a little bit, and it's like they want to come back to the safe place. They want to come back to they want to come back home to kind of have the parents kind of fuss over them and make the meals, and to not have to worry about things, and when they heal in that environment, when they feel better, and when their confidence is built back up, they have that like launch pad, that landing place to kind of like explore from again. So it's kind of like you're providing the safe, reliable thing to come back to, which feels like planet Earth, right? So it could be that you feel like home, because didn't we have home somewhere? You feel like home to this person, or you feel like, you feel like home. It made me think of that song, You Feel Like Home to Me. It's Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton. I'm going to make a note of that, actually. Yeah, so I want to say the removal of this, the protection of the Earth Keeper, is actually allowing this young, fiery person to really mature very, very quickly, because your reading ends, I've got some cards on the end here, but they're just kind of like cards that I pulled out from your previous reading. Your reading ends with this, which feels magnificent. It feels like somebody really enjoying their freedom and really having a good time and really enjoying being wild and free and almost animal-like, right? Almost so it could be somebody who's working with animals, maybe somebody who's working in a zoo or something like this. It does make me think of my daughter. My daughter's Sagittarius. My eldest child is Sagittarius, and they have this real natural affinity with animals. They even like wild, kind of like if we're out and there's a dog and the dog's kind of like a little bit of a scary dog, maybe it's growling a bit, or maybe it's kind of in a bad mood, she has this ability to just they have this ability to just go over in such a gentle, soothing way that within a minute of meeting this animal, they are like putty in her hands. The dog will be lay on her, stomach out, like soft as muck. When we got our previous cat, which had a bit of a tricky start in life, they were kind of a bit like, they would scratch and they would bite, and it was because they'd lost the tip of the tail, so it's like whatever they'd gone through in the previous life, they'd had to kind of like learn to defend themselves, right? They had to learn to fight. So when they came to us, we were told the cat does not like being picked up, they don't like being petted. But again, within a week, the cat was absolutely just soft as muck in her arms. And yes, sometimes she did instinctively bite or scratch, but she learned to, like she learned to like pull the scratches, and so she'd sometimes go to do something instinctively, and she'd catch herself, and she'd be like, no, I love this person, I don't want to hurt them, like, and she'd kind of like, like someone who's pulling the punches, she'd kind of like she was learning not to scratch and learning not to bite, and she became a really soft, happy cat who loved being picked up and loved being cuddled, or at least tolerated it and purred. So it's that kind of, it makes me think of that, right? It makes me think of somebody who's maybe very in tune with animals, maybe really good at naturally kind of calming animals down, even kind of like wilder animals. I mean, I wouldn't recommend anyone try and ride a tiger. I think that's how you get ended, right? How you get KO'd. But companionship and will and wildness, it's this feeling of, it's almost like this person's on the arc, right? Like so I don't know if maybe there's an opportunity coming up for, maybe you've got some kind of like daughter and they've got some kind of opportunity to, I don't know, go on a cruise ship that's also a zoo, right? And it's like, but they're going to absolutely love it because it's like, this is their passion, right? This is what makes them feel successful. And I think it's a really beautiful, very wild, but very feminine energy. It's kind of like, if we were talking about that kind of like dark feminine energy in Libra's reading and engaging with your id and being a little bit feral, it's kind of like the light version of that, right? It's kind of like the it's kind of something to do with, there's something to do with as well, like the education that this one has given, this one, which might be about things like food chains and, the natural instincts of animals. And I was talking about wolves as well in Libra's reading, the idea of like, I mentioned things like Native Americans and Inuits and, tribes in Africa who, before, they became civilized, right? Before these kind of like more Christian kind of ideas came, they knew how to live off the land. They knew how to, yes, they would hunt, but they would hunt respectfully, right? They would know not to diminish the population of animals because they had to sustain the animal population so that they had food in the future. And the idea of like living off the land and growing crops and all that kind of stuff, but also to do with how, animals that, yes, perhaps they can be very scary in certain situations. I wouldn't like to be a rabbit when in front of a hungry wolf, for example, but wolves don't tend to hurt or hunt humans. They actually tend to be scared of humans. Wolves and crows can cooperate with each other in the wild. So there's all this stuff about understanding the nature of the animal, but also understanding, because this card, will and tiger, it does talk about kind of like the goddess. Let me actually find this description, hold on. Yeah, so it says exercise your will and determination in ethical ways. So again, the idea of like, I was seeing Libra wearing like wolf fur and seal skin, but it was kind of like something about respect for the whole animal, right? Where in our current culture, if you live in somewhere that has like, the fast food industry and things like this, and it relies on, you expect to go out and be able to buy steak whenever you want, right? It's reliant upon the food industry on a mass commercialized scale. So mass industrialized farming of meat, right? And then what are all the byproducts? Where do the byproducts go? And yes, it's kind of very effective and efficient in certain ways, but I think we lose, when we're buying a packet of meat, right? We lose the respect for the animal in some sort of way where, if we had to work the farm and raise that animal ourselves, for example, a steak and a cow, right? If we've had to, help that cow, the mother cow, give birth to that animal, and we've had to raise it and make sure it's eating properly and that it's healthy, and then it's got to the point where, we're like, right, time to eat you now, time to, which, again, I'm vegetarian, so I don't do that anyway, but the idea of like, okay, well, we're going to use every part of the animal, right? We have respect for this animal because we know we raised it by hand, right? So it's like, okay, so we're going to use the bones for tools, we're going to use the skin for I don't know, clothing, or protection on our house, right? You know, like skin roofs kind of thing. Or you know, we're going to eat the best parts of the animal, we're going to salt it, we're going to put it in the earth to kind of turn it into, or dry it out, like to make it last longer. So this is going to, yes, we're killing this cow, but it's going to feed the village for weeks, right? We're going to use every part of the animal. So you know, maybe the parts that we don't want to eat are going to go to feed the dogs. So it's like the life of that animal is more respected. So I do think there could be something like that coming through. So yeah, exercise your will and determination in ethical ways. Do not place your will on over another's. You do not have control over anyone but yourself. Do not be afraid to be fierce, especially as a woman. We can ride our healthy anger, but we must eventually transform it into something more useful. So this again feels like it's tipping back into that kind of more Lilith reading of that Libra had, where they were angry. Libra was angry, but it was kind of like they were using that anger to kind of like go and make a big change, right? They were going to, you know, change, what's that? Change the things you can kind of thing. So the mythos is Durga came riding into people's lives on the back of a snarling tiger. She was a warrior and carried weapons to subdue and destroy, and yet her face was serene and calm. It was the evils of life she was after, the false illusions, the damaging rage, the petty jealousies. Remember what I was saying about vengeance? Not a good thing, Scorpio. Scorpio energy is inclined to it, so be wary. Be wary of the difference between healthy anger and petty jealousies, and you know, pointless revenge. She was after greed and anything that may choose to harm. The Hindu goddess Durga is the embodiment of the powerful feminine energy of Shakti, as she wields it mightily to make the way clear. She protects the natural order of nature and the nature of the self. She rides the tiger to preserve the will we have towards what good we can do, and subduing the negative parts of our will that we may wish to place upon others, so we are not controlled by these impulses. She swings her 8 arms and destroys what is evil. Not only does Durga grab the tiger by the tail, she rides it. So it's a very, very cool, very empowered feminine energy. So I want to say that this could be you, it could be somebody around you. It's interesting, we're going into the Sagittarius's reading, we're getting all this Sagittarius energy at the end of your reading. So yeah, I'm not sure who you are exactly in that, flip and reverse it if needs be, but the story does seem to be of this protective masculine figure, and it's coming through as divine masculine, right? It's coming through as high vibrational, removing protection, or being ordered to remove protection in order to give this what feels like a younger feminine energy the space to ride their healthy anger in a way that seems to be saving the planet, actually. So I want to say the overall arching story here seems to be help us, we haven't learned our lessons, right? We haven't, again, there seems to be some sort of trick. The Magician and the Seven of both say there's some kind of trick here, but I want to say it could even be the masculine's refusal to see something from this. See my tummy's rumbling. The masculine perhaps digging their heels in, perhaps being particularly stubborn, perhaps it's kind of like Emperor Taurian energy of being like, this is the right way, this is my way, this is how we do it, this is how we do it, this is how we do it. And then this kind of more challenging energy coming in to say, do you know what, I don't agree with this, I'm angry about this, give me space. And again, I had that feeling of kind of like the dragon coming out of the egg. It was like almost like peeling back the earth's crust in order to spread their wings in the cosmos. It was a really cool vision, actually, and it has that kind of feeling like don't be afraid. So the message to the masculine, the healthy masculine energy who wants to protect, is like, don't be afraid of letting this fiery feminine energy be its wilder self, right? There is a purpose to this, and the purpose is something to do with destroying evil and protecting nature. It's like, if the intention of the Earthkeeper has been to protect the planet, but they're saying it's not working, I need help. It's like we've given you help. We've given you help in the form of perhaps this daughter who who you're overprotecting, but you need to let them do their purpose. You need to let them go out there and be angry and be seen and destroy the things that must be, you know, to let the towers crumble that must be crumbled. It's like, don't be afraid of their anger. Their anger is actually exactly what the planet needs, which is, seems to be the theme of this set of readings. It seems to be, the theme of this set of readings does seem to be the interplay between masculine and feminine energy. And again, just as a reminder, if you look at your birth chart, you've got 12 houses. The planets move between those 12 houses. Each house and each planet and each sign has masculine and feminine energy. So every single human being on this planet is affected by both masculine and feminine energy, right, as part of their birth chart. So I'm not talking about gender, I'm not talking about sex, I'm talking about energy. And so the masculine energy and the feminine energy inside all of us, and how that can be healthy and how that can be dark, right? And how when we do the shadow work and we tap into our darker traits of humanity, such as anger and jealousy and things like this, and we transform those energies into healthy anger that turns into drive and passion and the desire to make change, it's actually very, very positive. So it's like, don't be afraid of the dark masculine or the dark feminine, but help it to grow in healthy expressive ways, and not be something that needs to be overprotected or pushed down or confined. It's like, give it breath, give it expression, even if that's anger, right? Because if somebody's angry, if somebody's coming at you and they're angry, it normally does come from, underlying it does come from the heart, right? It comes from an emotion. And so if you can get beneath that anger and really listen and really kind of read between the lines and say, where is the hurt here? What's triggered this? What's going on emotionally under the fiery surface of this? You can really tap into something where you have the opportunity to heal and you have the opportunity to make amends, and not necessarily, vengeance feels like, I don't know. Should I be scared of the vengeance card? Let's read the vengeance card as well. What's this from? The Dark and Dangerous deck. So the leaflets for this are kind of like right at the back of where I store all my tarot cards. So 31. Is this something we should fear? I have a natural aversion to Scorpio's need for revenge, because I see it as low vibrational. I feel like vengeance is lowering the vibration of the planet. But when you turn what's underlying vengeance, right? Normally it's some kind of anger. It's anger because you've been hurt or betrayed. So if you can tap into that and use it to change the circumstances so that it stops it happening to someone else, I think that is much more healthy. So Erinyes, revenge can feel good for a time, but it is a hollow victory. Yeah, it's like somebody's not learning the lesson. I feel like this is what this is then. Revenge can feel good for a time, but it is a hollow victory. Allow yourself to leave a cycle of negativity. Justice will be done. Only you can choose to forgive someone else. This is where your power is. Your power is in being able to either forgive someone or let it go. Even if you have to do some deep emotional work to be able to get into a place where you do that, because it releases you from that person. It's not about forgiving them. It's about releasing you from that dark energy. And you can only choose your own actions and the way that you respond to circumstances. And you may or may not choose to forgive someone of their transgression, but you can forgive yourself and not for others. The Erinyes, or the Furies for the Romans, were frightening and punishing female goddesses who tortured or invoked other vengeances on those who deserved it. It does feel a bit like that's what Libra's energy was in. I don't know what's made Libra so mad, but the Erinyes, by some descriptions, had terrible voices and could fly, while some described them as maidens and other dark crones. Oh, Libra had crones. Maybe somebody has Crohn's. My tummy's been rumbling a lot in your readings, so it was really embarrassing actually how much it rumbled. I just ate a massive homemade pizza when I first recorded your reading, but like it's doing it again, it's rumbling again. And I know Crohn's is like Crohn's disease, it affects the stomach, right? So just pay attention if anyone's having tummy troubles. They were some of the most, I mean, here it's referring to crones as in like old witchy women, right? So I don't know, maybe go and check out Libra's reading too. They were some of the most ancient of beings, having come into existence before the Olympian pantheon of Greece. The Erinyes have an interesting but bloodthirsty creation myth. Many stories illustrate a repeated pattern of the masculine fearing being usurped by the children, especially the sons. This legend depicts the archetypal mother Gaia, Earth, and father Uranus, Sky. Uranus, Sky. Uranus becomes convinced that his sons will do him harm, so he eventually preempts this and puts them in prison and thinks of killing them. Gaia is pained by Uranus's imprisonment of her sons and decides he has to be stopped. I was literally talking about something really similar this week, but it was Zeus and his father, right? Gaia is pained by Uranus's imprisonment of her sons and decides he has to be stopped. She creates a sharp sickle made of flint and encourages her Titan sons to seek revenge and their freedom. But only one is willing to try. Cronus, Time, who is ambitious and wishes to be as powerful as his father, agrees to castrate Uranus. Gaia promises to make love with Uranus to get him into a vulnerable position, but instead he is surprised by Cronus, who castrates him, with blood flowing everywhere. The spilled blood forms the avenging Erinyes, the Gaiantes, and the Malei Ashtrinis. I studied, my degree has a specialism in classics, and I cannot pronounce any of these names. I did Roman though. I learned Latin, not Greek. Greek is really hard to pronounce. The Erinyes represented screaming vengeance, and specifically vengeance upon men who do not keep their word and who harm or kill women. Matricide was especially something that the Erinyes would punish. The dark crimes committed against women, and later this extended to children and the aged, would be avenged by the Erinyes. And it is said that many men who were not punished by legal means were sent mad by them. The Erinyes were also later called the kindly ones because many saw them as positive forces for justice. So if you are divine masculine, if you're acting with integrity and you are supporting women and treating them with respect, I got a side note there. My guides are quite funny. They are quite cheeky. They were kind of saying treat them with respect, but they were kind of like indicating kind of like sometimes in a secure loving relationship with a partner, when you agree to certain things, it's okay to be a little bit rough in the bedroom if that is what you've discussed, and you know it's what you and your partner enjoy, and you've got kind of like your do's and don'ts in place. If you want to kind of get a bit kinky in the bedroom, that is also just a healthy relationship. It's healthy masculinity, right? And but again, like, people have their kinks, and that's okay. My guys just wanted to kind of mention that. But again, it's when you're in agreement with the partner, right? So anyone who's coming through and they've, just be careful if you are coming into this and you're a guy and you've been tricking people and not learning your lessons and not seeing things from the feminine perspective, and you're not this, right? You're not this healthy masculinity, but you're abusive. Libra and Scorpio's reading is going to have something to say about that. It's funny how these messages keep coming back up, because in Libra's reading I was talking about that episode of Handmaid's Tale, which, again, Handmaid's Tale is a story about a very abusive patriarchal system that really does repress and control women in very unhealthy ways, and what this does, right? What this does to the women who've suffered years of this abuse. And I was talking about this one scene where the women go like absolutely feral, right? It's like the id completely takes over, and they chase one of the commanders through a forest and they tear him apart with their teeth and their fingernails, like it's a really, really disturbing scene, but that's honestly what that feels like. And I'm obviously not recommending anyone take the law into their own hands. I am not recommending anyone I have faith in the justice system, but sometimes it fails, and again, not recommending anyone do anything like this, but I can see why, right? I can understand the psyche of why someone would absolutely lose their shit, especially if a child is involved. You know, it's hard to pull back that anger, especially if you feel like justice has not been served. So again, I'm hoping this is storytelling, for example, like The Handmaid's Tale. Or I've just watched the series, the Power as well, The Power, with which again discusses women kind of like having this power waking up inside them, and some women are good and some women are bad, and some women there's a group of women who've been used as sex slaves, and they are particularly showing up in this energy, but it's interesting to that these readings are coming out with these discussions of what is healthy masculinity, what is healthy femininity, why does dark feminine and dark masculine energy happen. And I think it's, again, going back to, if you want to look at Carl Jung's philosophy, and the collective shadow, when something is repressed for too long, it's almost like imagine squeezing something. Imagine squeezing Play-Doh between your fingers, right? You can only suppress it for so long before it starts to kind of like spurt out of whatever way it can spurt out, and it's normally quite uncontrolled, and it's normally quite dark. So yeah, if you're interested in more of that, go and look at The Collective Shadow, Carl Jung, and healthy, the need for healthy representations, and healthy ways of engaging with our shadow and with our id energy, because if it's suppressed too much, it does come out in kind of more uncontrollable, more destructive ways, which kind of almost feels like what's that happening there. But again, it does feel like there's something positive about it because it's got these animals. Okay. Also to say as well here, you do have this fierceness Wolverine energy, which again was kind of showing up as this kind of like fierce masculine energy in Libra's reading. If you look at the thumbnail, I chose a Viking because Libra is coming through like this Viking energy. Just feels a bit like I don't know, are they fighting each other or are they teaming up? I don't know. It feels like this masculine does have love for this feminine, right? It feels like I don't know. What curious reading. And you also have like new beginnings, right? So it's Moon Maiden, new beginnings, and skywriting, the fates. There is something that's kind of fated happening. Oh my god, and underneath that, talking about whales. Whale song resonating, kind of like what we've been saying this entire time, right? I don't know what to make of this reading, but this reading felt a lot more clear and succinct and sensible than the last time I attempted this, because the last one I felt really scared. Actually, I felt very scared. I think there is a lesson about treating people with respect. If somebody's very angry or vengeful, kind of trying to get to the root of that and understand it, but also having your wits about you and understanding some people are sometimes in low vibrational energy and you have to protect yourself against that. What do we have, please? Can we get another song here to kind of really make sure I've transferred whatever message is intended to come through for whoever's meant to hear it? Can I really get some kind of song to really emphasize the point, please? My Life by Billy Joel. Okay, it feels like that's this person actually, but got a call from an old friend. We used to be real close. Said he couldn't go on the American way. Closed the shop, sold the house, bought a ticket to the West Coast. Now he gives them a stand-up routine in LA. I don't need you to worry about me because I'm all right. I don't want you to tell me it's time to come home. I don't care what you say anymore. This is my life. Go ahead with your own life. Leave me alone. I never said you had to offer me a second chance. I never said I was the victim of circumstance. I still belong, don't get me wrong, and you can speak your mind, but not on my time. They will tell you that you can't sleep alone in a strange place, and then they'll tell you you can't sleep with somebody else, but sooner or later you'll sleep in your own space, and either way it's okay. You wake up with yourself. I'm going to leave it there. Oh, I'm going to play it by accident. I'm going to leave it there. I did get something through. What was that? I'm just trying to think. It came through and I've not said it in a reading yet. The last reading did end with this idea of kind of like, you are everything that you need, right? You are everything that you need. You don't need someone else to complete you, but being able to spend time with other people and enjoy their company is a lovely thing. It's gone out of my head again. I'm gonna have to wait until it comes back. I guess it's not for you. If it's gone, it's not for you. It must be for another sign. But I hope this reading was helpful to you. Again, I really want to go back to emphasize the points of kind of like, just be careful about vengeance. Use it in a healthy way, not a destructive way. Use it to make change and to make progress and to make things better for the future and future generations, rather than vengeance because you personally feel offended and angry. You know, just be wary about what the root of that is and what the purpose of it is. Make sure it's coming out in a healthy way. Treat other people with respect. The more you treat people with respect, the less angry they're going to be at you and angry at society. Kind of like live and let live, I guess. Protect kids, but also give them freedom, give them space, and provide a secure, nurturing environment for them to return to. A bit like that Fix You song, you know, if they do encounter anything that kind of goes wrong. Let people make the mistakes. That's how they mature. And just be careful of Greeks bearing gifts, right? If somebody that you know isn't your friend, right? Somebody who's like a bit suspicious is trying to give you a gift, and it seems like it could have been tampered with in any sort of way. You know, somebody buys you a drink, but you don't trust them. You know, somebody gives you a cake, but you're like, is this full of laxatives? Like, what is this? Like, this doesn't feel right. You know, if somebody gives you a big wooden horse, but 5 minutes later they were trying to, you know, earlier they were trying to storm your castle. Just be wary. Just be wary. Something's a bit sus. If something feels a bit off, trust that feeling. And just, you know, you can be graceful. You can be like, thank you so much for the gift. Pieces of clothing as well. Thank you so much for the gift. You know, I really appreciate it. I'm not hungry right now, I'll save it for later. And then you just stick it in the bin, right? Or like if someone buys you a drink, you say, oh, thank you so much, I'm just gonna nip to the toilet, oops, I spilt it. Or, you know, tip it into a plant, or flush it down the toilet. You know, if you don't trust it, you can be graceful in receiving it, but you don't have to consume it in front of them. I don't know. Okay, take care, and I will see you again soon. Bye, friends.